Okay, can you hear me?
There's nothing happening.
All right, Mr. Abuxia, sorry for the delay. You have Mr. Marquise?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Marquise, you're on that LG Escape Plus?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski. You missed a little appointment earlier today. I was wondering what happened.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have a good excuse at all. I fell asleep. My work schedule is 5. I get out at 5:30 in the morning after a 12-hour shift.
Just kind of crazy right now. Okay. Well, I appreciate you getting a hold of Mr. Cortez.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Cortez?
I apologize. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Mr. Marquise. I just wanted to kind of understand what was going on. We'll recall the bench warrant for sure.
Thank you.
But it looks like, Mr. Cortez, it was going to be a waiver?
That's correct. I provided the signed waiver of preliminary examination and waiver of circuit court arraignment to Amanda. I've discussed this matter with Mr. Marquez, and we are willing to waive the preliminary examination to move this case to circuit court. The offer from the prosecutor was that if he is so eligible, they would not object to sobriety court in this matter.
Yeah, that he was going to look into sobriety court. It'd be great if you could get into it, Mr. Marquise. We're talking on right now file D20-02105FD, and waiving the preliminary exam is just like Mr. Cortez spoke to you, Mr. Marquise. The case moves on to circuit court. You and Mr. Cortez will still continue to talk. Mr. Cortez will talk to you about it before a final decision will have to be made by you. So just don't miss talking to him. I know you overslept with us today, but it's really important that you don't miss an appointment at circuit court, okay?
Oh yeah. It won't happen. I apologize so much.
Yeah, I get it. And Mr. Cortez will be in contact with you, so when you know the new date, he'll let you know. So
Okay.
we're waiving the prelim on our case, waiving the circuit court arraignment. I say not guilty on the case as it moves on to circuit court. You just stick to talking to Mr. Cortez and don't miss any of your appointments at circuit court, okay?
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. That's it then, Mr. Cortez. Thank you for your courtesy and getting the paperwork to us.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Passenger, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you. And you see my client Shannon Pierce and my screen below, but I don't know where she is. I see my
No,
videos.
I've got her. I've got her. Miss Pierce, you can hear me, can't you? You have to unmute yourself. You have to say join audio or unmute yourself where the little microphone line is. It's a spot that you have to click on.
Yes.
You can hear me.
Good afternoon, Judge.
That's it. That works.
Okay.
So originally you were charged with the OWI second, and now Mr. Passenger worked out an agreement for you to plead to OWI first. Is that your understanding, Mr. Passenger?
It is, Judge, and there was also a no objection that if there was any confinement that be in-home. She lives in Boyne City. She's not a young person, and so certainly you have the discretion, and that was the agreement with the prosecution, but it would be hoped we might be able to do it that way. Thank you.
I don't know exactly how you have confinement in one's home in Boyne City or anywhere. I mean, we call it jail when there's a jail sentence given. I'm not entirely clear how we'll work that out. Maybe I'll have to talk to the prosecutor a little bit more about it, because normally when there's a duplicate charge, multiple offense, like there's been a previous conviction here going back to 2019, just a year ago, that's usually where we do confinement, of course. Are you working outside the home at all, Ms. Pierce?
I'm self-employed, Your Honor.
What kind of work?
I'm an artist.
Yeah. So you know that the charge itself is called operating while intoxicated, first offense. It's a criminal misdemeanor. It's up to 93 days in jail, up to $500 fine, Court costs can be on top of that. You can plead guilty or not guilty. You can have a trial in front of a judge or a jury. You can have an attorney. And if you cannot afford an attorney, the court can appoint one. Mr. Passenger is here as your attorney and more than capable of representing you. If you do go forward today, it has to be your decision, Ms. Pierce. Nobody can force you to go forward on this. It has to be based on whatever the facts were back on the date of this incident, March 11, when you were in the Grand Rapids area. Can you think of any questions for me?
Not at this moment, Your Honor.
Are you on probation or parole?
No, I am not.
Do you have any cases pending in any other courts?
No, I do not.
I recognize what Mr. Passenger said about hoping that the court would allow for you to be confined up north. But you know, if a judge gives you jail, I mean, it's not at your house.
I understand.
The decision that you'd make has to be about the facts of the case. You were either operating a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol, or you weren't.
Correct.
While this isn't called a second offense, it's called a first. It's treated like a second for purposes of other convictions. So if it happens again, they charge you with a felony, because a third time is a felony. Do you understand, Ms. Pierce?
Yes, I do.
Then I'm going to go back in time to March 11. It's over 7 months ago. Cascade Road near the dollar store and the D&W gas station there. How do you want to plead to the amended charge of operating while intoxicated first offense?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Do you remember the incident?
Yes, I
Or
do.
parts of it?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember being in your vehicle driving to that area of the D&W on Cascade Road?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember anyone physically being with you in the car?
No, there was no one else with me.
Was it a car you're familiar with?
Yes, it was my own car.
Where had you been that you drank alcohol?
I had driven down to bring my mother to my sister's house. My mother is elderly. She's 87, and we have kind of a complicated relationship. And there were just some instances that happened, and it triggered me to drink.
So the question originally was, where did you drink? In your car?
No, Your Honor.
With your sister's house?
No.
At an establishment?
No. I guess I would I would say that I was parked.
Just tell me where you drank.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I would say that I was parked,
Uh-huh.
and I drank. I
After
did go in.
leaving
I
your
did go
mom
in.
with your sister. After
I did-
leaving your mom already, and you're by yourself, and you drive away,
Right.
and you're
Yes,
in some
Judge.
parking lot.
This
sorry.
is after she and her mom were together, Judge, and the mom triggered some things that caused her to
Yeah, I'm not
misbehave.
doubting that. Obviously, there was some difficulty there, but I'm just trying to get a feel for where you drank. By yourself in a car in a parking lot?
Yes.
And that was the parking lot where the police eventually find you?
No.
A different parking lot?
Yes.
And how did you get the alcohol? Did you go to a store? Did you have it with you already?
No. I went to a store.
Okay, so what alcohol did you buy?
I bought some vodka.
Uh-huh. And that would have been way after you left Boyne City, came down to Grand Rapids, dropped your mom off, then bought it,
Correct.
and then drank it.
My intention was to get a hotel.
Okay, but it didn't happen,
Correct.
and you were eventually arrested and taken into custody.
Correct.
And the parking lot that you were arrested in was not the parking lot where you drank.
Correct.
All right, so you're pleading guilty. What do you remember your breathalyzer was? Do you remember taking the PBT, that preliminary breath test right at the scene?
I do.
You remember them telling you about a number, or don't you remember?
I
Judge, if I can interject, they have typographical errors in their report, but it was in excess of the legal limit.
Okay. And Ms. Pierce, When you look back on this now, do you realize even though you were having some emotional difficulties or dysfunction with your mother or whatever, with your sister, whatever was all going on, that, I mean, technically it may have what triggered you drinking, but it didn't cause you to drink, true?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand that, and
And you never should have been driving the car yourself.
I understand that. I am completely and take the responsibility for what my
All right, I
actions
appreciate
were.
it. When you think back on the one in 2019 at the 90th District Court, was that up in Boyne City?
That was in Charlevoix County, yes.
And you pled guilty to a drunk driving case there as well?
Yes, I did.
Any accident or anybody hurt?
No, thank God nobody has ever been hurt.
Right. Thank God now again, because in this case, nobody was hurt or killed and it could have happened then too. You
Yeah,
get what I'm saying?
I meant for both instances.
Yeah, for both. And here, the people that called it in, there were people that called it in, saw you driving the wrong way on this case. All right, Mr. Passenger, do you believe the court has complied with the court rule in terms of the taking of the plea?
I do, Your Honor. I believe that Ms. Pierce is willing to take responsibility, understands the magnitude, is incredibly apologetic, which I'll explain some of the steps when I have a moment to explain what she's done, which is very substantial. So yes, I think everything but asking her, do you plead guilty or not guilty, I think has been done.
Okay. I'll accept the plea of guilty on the OWI first, which means the OWI second will be dismissed in its entirety. Did you actually have a written assessment done, Mr. Passenger?
Not only one, but two, Your Honor. She went through a program with the Michigan State Police, which resulted in her doing a 28-day inpatient treatment, which she successfully completed and was discharged. When she came out, she was then reassessed by basis in Traverse City, and those documents were sent to Ann at your court. After the 28-day inpatient, she has actively stayed in meetings, which we sent some of the meeting records to you. She's also doing one-on-one counseling that is ongoing and continuing. And as a result of all of this, I think has taken this incredibly seriously. She realizes what a significant thing this was. She has actually been trying to dispose of her vehicle so that there's not even the ability to drive again. Ironically, she went finally to the Secretary of State's office today to do that because it's the first appointment they would give her. And astoundingly, they said you can't convey your own vehicle to a third party. As a result of that, she has an appointment tomorrow where they're insisting that she bring a family member with her so that she can convey her own vehicle using them as an agent, which makes no sense at all. But so she has made arrangements to get rid of her car in its entirety. She's done a 28-day inpatient treatment, which she's been successful in. It's been 8 months now that she's continuing in treatment and really doing quite well in her treatment. So we sent you some information from bases as well to indicate that she's continuing to undergo treatment and attend meetings even currently. So it's our hope, particularly with COVID, and that she comes from an up north area, which until this past week has been a much lower probability of contracting this disease. I was aware of a person in 61st District Court who would regularly use a GPS tether where you can actually have home confinement, and she's willing to do that for any period of time necessary and therefore reduce the risk both to herself and others that COVID be transmitted. So that's the hope, but you certainly have discretion. We understand that.
Okay. Is there anything else you can think of that you want to say at all, Ms. Pierce?
Your Honor, I would just like you to know again how sorry I am that I have driven while drunk, and I apologize for your time and for the state of Michigan's time. I've made a lot of, taken a lot of action to make sure that I will not be able to do that again. Sobriety and my recovery are the highest priority for me in my life. And I would like to say that I too feel that, you know, my place in AA, and I have a really good team of support around me. So I just ask that Sorry, I'm not trying to be
No,
emotional.
it's a lot of emotion. Obviously, it's huge, and I can hear it, and I know that you're working hard at it, but it's now or never.
I'm aware.
It's now or never. You're not gonna beat this if you don't put everything you have into it. And I admire and appreciate that you're making a lot of effort. And I don't know if we have to go back to last year or the year before or 5 years ago, but you've been there, done that before. And now
Correct.
we're all waiting to see if this is really going to be it or if it's not. I don't know you. I'm not trying to pretend that I do. I know that you did the 28-day inpatient, but this is a lifetime commitment that you have to make to sobriety. And our focus is that we don't want somebody to get hurt or killed because you're being irresponsible with a disease that you have. So keep doing
Yes, Your
what you're
Honor, I
doing and work hard at it, but you got to make a focused approach that you're going to put everything into this.
Right, and Your Honor, would like to say that I do have a home group here in Boyne. I do have 2 sponsors, and I have a sobriety coach, and I also, Mr. Passenger said, I also do counseling weekly.
Yeah.
So I really am trying to, I've been going to meetings mostly via Zoom, which I included on the attendance sheets from AA.
Right.
I've been trying to do 5 a week. And if it's mandated, I can do 7 or more.
You just got to really, really stay focused is all I'm saying. And I can hear it in your voice. I get that it's emotional. There's a lot to this. It doesn't just start today. You've been dealing with this for years and years. And I'm glad that you have a support group. But it has to come from you 1,000%, regardless of how great your support group is. My intentions today were to give you 15 days in the Kent County Jail. And I've written down that I'm not going to have you serve the jail time right now, but I want to review it in 30 days. That's a 93-day suspended jail sentence where 78 days are suspended, 15 days, 2 days credit, meaning a 13-day jail sentence. I won't have you report to the Kent County Jail right now, but I'm not saying I'm taking it away for sure. I want to see how you're doing, and I want to review this with your probation officer in a month's time. No alcohol whatsoever, no illegal drugs, no misuse of prescription medication, no marijuana, testing as ordered, continue with your counseling, AA, and your aftercare program with the inpatient treatment program. $730 in fines, $360 is the fee for probation, $75 crime victims' right fee in every one of these cases. $275 goes back to the Kent County Sheriff's Department for a total of $1,440. Secretary of State is going to be taking your license away. I know you've already made arrangements with the car. Payment plan will be set up so that you can figure out how to pay this. You'll be notified up in Boyne City by our probation department, and I'll get word to you later, and Mr. Passenger can be involved when and if I make the decision as it relates to the jail time. The bond money that you posted can be applied towards this, and they'll do that. Then they'll do the money, so much a month or whatever. Questions that you have at all?
Judge, if I may, your probation office is primarily doing Zoom meetings, as I understand it. Is she able to stay with 63?
Everything's going to be by Zoom and or by remote, email, telephone contact, etc.
Good. And so she'll remain with your 63rd District Court staff, correct?
Yes, but it won't be on today.
Understood. Thank you. And they'll
Okay.
contact Shannon to set that up, correct?
Yep. Exactly. That's it, Mr. Passenger. Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr.
Thank you, Your
Cordes?
Honor. I just want to say hi to all the other attorneys I don't normally see these days. I see hanging around on the bottom there. Thank you.
Right, exactly. Mr. Murphy and Mr. Cordes. All right, Mr. Cordes, I did not realize you had Gerald Balzac right there, and I skipped to another case, so I'm getting back to you and Mr. Balzac.
Thank you.
This is a case, Mr. Balzac, you're going to remember that you were charged with the OWI second. Mr. Cordes worked out an agreement with the prosecutor that they would not object to sobriety court if you meet the qualifications. It's quite strenuous in terms of what the qualifications and protocol are that you follow to be accepted into the sobriety court. If you did get in, it would be a huge benefit to you, but I don't know whether you'll be accepted or not, but I will not object to it. By going
Your
forward
Honor.
today, you make a decision yourself, Mr. Balzac. Am I saying it okay? Balzac?
Yes, yep.
You know you can plead guilty or not guilty. You know you can have a trial in front of a judge or a jury. You know you can have an attorney. Mr. Cordes is here, certainly more than capable of representing you on this Zoom meeting today, but the ultimate decision has to be yours. If you go forward on this July 7 incident that was 3.5 months ago, the decision has to be yours, Mr. Balzac. Not your family, not your attorney, not me. If you go forward, there's no trial at all. Then you give up your rights associated with having a trial, including bringing in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you, and you have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Any questions?
No,
Are you on probation or parole right now anywhere?
no, I'm not.
If you wanted to appeal anything, it goes from district court to circuit court, and you're given 3 weeks to appeal to the higher court. Do you feel like you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Then I'd like to ask you, as it relates to the incident of July 7, operating while intoxicated second, the misdemeanor, up to 1 year in jail, up to $1,000 fine, 6 points on your license, and the Secretary of State can take your license away based on your master driving privileges, suspend it, restrict it, or revoke it. To that charge of operating while intoxicated second, because of a case that happened 5 years ago in our court, how do you want to plead to OWI second misdemeanor? Mr. Balzac,
Guilty.
do you remember the incident?
Yes, I do, all the way
Parts
up
of
to
it?
my actual accident.
All the way up to what?
My accident.
Okay. So prior to the accident, do you remember driving?
Yes, I do.
Was it a car that you'd be familiar with?
Yes, it was mine.
Oh, it was a motorcycle.
Yes,
It was your motorcycle, and you were with your buddy, Brandon.
yes,
Mr. Bazin has a case out of our court, too, from that very incident. Do you remember?
yes.
Do you still talk to him?
I do not.
He's due to come out here in a few more months, but he's still got a pending case. It's a different charge, but I just was thinking about that. And the two motorcycles bumped each other, did they not?
Yes.
And that sent you flying? Do you wear a helmet?
I was not wearing a helmet, no.
So you really took it in the head, and you got a concussion, and you broke your foot, and you broke your thumb, and what else?
In my right arm,
Your right arm was broken?
it was fractured.
What'd you have to have surgery on? Am I
My
asking too
left-
many questions? I don't want to bother you, but
No,
did you have
a left
surgery?
ankle.
Yeah? How are you
Yeah.
doing now?
Doing better for sure.
Can you put full weight on that left ankle yet?
Not full weight, but pretty
Not
close.
quite? You doing physical therapy?
Yes.
I had a case once where there were two brothers, and there was a motorcycle accident, and one of the brothers lost his leg, the whole leg.
I just want this whole thing.
Can you imagine what this could have been like for you?
It could have been very worse, yes.
With the false-
And even as bad as it was, I mean, scary as all get out, if you ask me.
She should go back
People
up.
came to your aid that night. They saw you laying there, some lady that lived nearby that knew you.
Hey,
Other guys that drove by that knew you, Jerry, they called you, right?
Yes.
That scared the hell out of people, what happened to you. This
Yeah,
could have
scared me
been,
too.
this could have been your last day on earth, really, seriously, think about it.
hey, that
Yes.
It's you against the pavement or whatever when you're on a motorcycle, no helmet. Do you remember being at that score on Plainfield, or where is it? Northland Drive?
Yeah, Northland Drive. Yes, I do.
And you were with some other friends.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to drill Braden or whatever, but he was there too, right?
Yes.
So then you drank some alcohol there. Do you remember throughout this whole thing, probably not with the accident, they actually took blood from your arm, or they had you tested to see how high your blood alcohol level was?
Yes.
Do you remember ever hearing the number?
Yes.
0.17?
0.17. Yes.
So not trying to be funny, but that's way over the legal limit. That's 0.08. If it's 0.08 and above, automatically it's illegal, even if you're driving perfectly.
Yes.
The accident doesn't even have to be your fault. If you're over the legal limit, it's illegal. Do you get that?
Yes, I do.
And I'm not a reconstructionist to go back and say what this accident was like. And maybe Braden didn't do any, Brandon or whatever his name is, maybe he didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you hit him. I really don't know what happened. But clearly, this could have been a fatal, even with Brandon. Brandon could have been killed,
Yes.
you know?
56.
So I'll ask you, Mr. Balzac, are you pleading guilty by your own decision?
Yes.
Has anybody forced you to plead guilty to this drunk driving second offense?
No.
Do you acknowledge that you stood in front of a judge, maybe me or another judge out here 5 years ago, and pled guilty to something similar?
Yes.
And you know that's why they call it a second offense.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Cordes, do you believe the court has complied with the court rule in terms of the taking of the plea?
I do, Your Honor.
Is there anything you'd like to say before I sentence Mr. Balzac with that journeys assessment he had completed?
Not only did we provide the journeys assessment, but we did get notice yesterday that Mr. Balzac has been accepted into
Oh.
sobriety court.
Good news for him.
Yeah, it's a very great opportunity. And Your Honor, we've had several discussions about that in my office. And I know you started asking him questions about his injuries. Since he first came into my office with his sister, and we talked about the case, what happened that night, his injuries. I've actually seen a cast come off of his arm. I've seen the boot come off of his leg. We were talking earlier when he came to my office this afternoon. He still has a fractured leg, but he doesn't have to wear the boot full time. So it's still in that process of healing. And
Right.
the one thing that's been consistent, Jerry's told me time and time again, he realizes how close this could have been to being his last time riding a motorcycle.
That's what I said.
Seeing his family, seeing anybody
Right.
being on Earth. So he realizes the magnitude of this accident. And he's somebody who he's really opened up to me in my office. I believe his alcohol assessment is very positive.
Yeah.
There was no masking. And I do believe he's motivated and is going to be a great candidate in sobriety court and is going to take every opportunity he has in front of him to use these tools to stay sober.
Right. Well, that's good. Mr. Balzac, can you think of anything else you want to say?
I just want to say that I know I made a mistake and I've been taking my sobriety very seriously, and it's definitely made a change in my life already. I'm ready to keep going with it and do what I have to do to stay sober and not have an accident again.
Okay. What I'm planning on doing is giving you a 1-year jail sentence. I'm going to forego it's all suspended. I'm going to forego any jail that you actually serve. I originally was going to give you 2 weeks, but now that you're in the sobriety court, I'd rather you just follow what they're telling you. And if you mess up with them, you're going to get jail. So be alert to this, because it's not just a free pass. You'll be on probation for 18 months. I'm going to order that you not use alcohol, no illegal drugs, no misuse of prescription medication, no marijuana. This is going to be the biggest test that you've ever had to see if you can do it. Counseling is ordered by the sobriety court. It's a $1,000 fine with us. $75 crime victims' right fee, $175 is the Kent County Sheriff's Department fee. Total is $1,350. Any bond you had can be applied. Secretary of State will be taking your license away for a longer period of time because of your prior conviction. You gotta make this work, because if it doesn't, Mr. Balzac, you're gonna be
I have.
hurting. Next time you have a case, it's a felony.
She's got it. Thanks.
Realize that you could have been killed in a split second on this case. And it's your family that's left behind that's suffering when you're dead. You wouldn't be suffering, you'd be gone. But this would have been a very, very difficult scenario. They talk about in your assessment that you have a severe alcohol use disorder and a severe cannabis use disorder. Can't get any more clear than that. You got to get yourself on track, and if you don't, you're going to be regretting it.
Technical help.
Totally. They'll set up the payment plan with you. And I think the way that the sobriety court works is you're going to have to make payments to us
Hello.
before you have to make any payments to them. And I'm not entirely clear, but the 18 months of probation is a little bit longer to make sure that you follow everything with sobriety court. If you mess up, you're back to me and you're looking at up to 1 year in jail. Questions, Mr. Balzac?
No, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Cordes, I appreciate your courtesy and patience throughout the course of the afternoon here. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Murphy, I appreciate your courtesy with Ms. Meir. I know you've been waiting. Michelle,
Yeah.
do you say your last name Meir?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. So Ms. Meir, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski. We've talked before, and I know that you understand what's going on with your cases. Mr. Murphy's been really prudent about getting me all the documents that I need about what's going on here. I wanted to talk to you about the cases that I have to make sure, Mr. Murphy, that we're doing everything correctly.
Thank you.
On the charge that was the stalking charge and malicious use of a telecommunication service from July 18 this summer, I have it down today that Ms. Meir would be pleading to the 1-year stalking charge, and the other offense of the 6-month misdemeanor would be dismissed in its entirety. That goes back to July 18. A month before that, we had the trespass case, and the trespass case was at the Centennial Ridge address, and that was going to be a plea today. And then a day before that was the June 22 incident of the larceny, which had to do with the same address where this Ferenzo lives. And that case was going to be dismissed in its entirety with the plea to the trespass. And that pretty much left us then, Mr. Murphy, with the bond violation.
I would agree,
Can you
Your
help me
Honor.
understand what that was going to do?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. The bond violation arose out of an incident on 9/4 of 2000. And my client, it was kind of an isolated incident where she did send some text message to her ex-husband, Mr.
Right.
Ferenzo. And it really flowed out of her request to have parenting time with her disabled adult daughter. In the meantime, my client has been undergoing rather extensive treatment, mental health treatment, and did have unfortunately a fall on September 16, and she still has some after effects of that. But she's really doing better now. She is getting regular treatment, especially with a Brendan Kelly, who's her counselor. She saw Mr. Kelly today. But there are some things we have to work out with Judge Murkowski still regarding her daughter Emma, but that's another matter, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Murphy, my inquiry was as to the plea set for today on the stalking and
Yes.
on the trespass. What was your position? What was going to happen on the September 4 bond violation?
We were asking the court to consider some type of a suspended sentence I talked to the prosecutor's office, Courtney Stone, and we had exchanged some information about that. I'm just checking my notes here.
Was the thought that Ms. Meir would be pleading to the bond violation but hoping for a suspended sentence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Or some kind of concurrent sentence if there was a sentence involving incarceration?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right, well, Ms. Meir, you've got to understand that the ultimate decisions here are yours. I know that you have had challenges in the past with some of your mental health issues, and you've been to Pine Rest, and you've been to some of the places to try to give you help and assistance. That doesn't make you a bad person in any way. You're obviously working on getting yourself in a healthier spot. I always say that we probably all have some mental health issues from time to time, and we have to be prudent about trying to be the best we can be in mind, body, and spirit. But in the decisions that you make today on these cases, principally the stalking of this former partner, I think he was a former partner. Is he the father of the daughter?
Ex-husband, Your Honor.
Yeah, so that would be former partner. So when you're thinking about how to handle these cases, it has to be your decision. Stalking is a misdemeanor, which is up to 1 year in jail and up to $1,000 fine, up to 5 years of probation. Trespassing is a misdemeanor also, with a lesser charge of up to 93 days in jail, up to $500 fine. The bond violation is a bond violation. You either admit it or deny it, plead guilty or not guilty. That can have monetary fines. That can have counseling classes ordered. That can be a jail sentence, no more than the original charge. But the decisions that you make, Ms. Meir, it has to be your own. To plead guilty or not guilty, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to have an attorney represent you, and Mr. Murphy is here, certainly more than capable of representing you on these charges. You have the right to decide in the end how you want to go forward. And in essence, it has to be your decision. Even though this has been a lot of emotion and a lot of trauma, and that your ex-husband and you don't always agree on things, and that you're working on trying to help your daughter. Was her name Emma?
Yes, Emma.
The daughter's name is Emma, isn't it? It seems like I read that somewhere.
Her name is
And
Emmanuel.
Emma has some special needs of her own. How old is Emma?
23. She has a
Yeah,
serious heart defect.
she'll be 24 coming up.
Yes.
The decisions that you make have to be yours. You won't have a trial. You won't have any witnesses testify. You won't testify yourself. You don't get the right to be presumed innocent anymore if you plead guilty on these charges. It does away with the trial, and we move forward with the penalty phase. If there is anything, Ms. Meir, that you wanted to appeal, you'd have the right to appeal. You have 21 days, 3 weeks, after being sentenced to appeal a case to the higher court. So far, do you have any questions for me?
No.
No, Your Honor.
So if we go back to June 23, the trespassing at Michael's house, the house that's there on Centennial Ridge, even if your intent was to go see Emma and you were forbidden to be at that property, how do you want to plead to that trespass charge, Ms. Meir?
Miles says guilty.
And I don't doubt that Miles said that. I'm really wondering what you would say. Do you remember being at that property?
Yes, I just wanted to know where my daughter was. I don't care where Michael.
Right?
I don't.
Right? And I get that you were trying to see how your daughter was doing, but you also knew you weren't allowed to be at that property, true?
No.
Okay. So when did you learn that you couldn't be at that property?
I don't know. I've had a severe.
That day, June 23.
I know.
Do you remember
I
ever
went
talking to
there.
Michael?
I own he knows where I live. I just want to know where he lives.
Ms. Meir, I'm not asking if he knows where you live. Try to listen to my questions. I know this is disturbing, but you're no dummy. and you understand a lot of what's going on. You guys are totally what I call dysfunctional.
Thank you.
Michael too. Michael too. You and Michael together, which
Yes,
is good that
I
you're
stood
divorced.
in your court with him for indecent exposure when I was like
Just a minute.
8 months
Please,
pregnant with my
just-
daughter.
Just
Like,
listen to the judge,
Right.
please.
So I get that he's got problems. Clearly he does. With that case, clearly he does. But Ms. Muir, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about you. Did you talk to Michael that day of June 23?
no,
And you're pleading guilty to trespassing to that charge, true?
Yes.
yes,
Louder, please.
I just need to know if you're doing this on your own.
yes. I'm suffering from
So
severe
when you're
brain.
pleading guilty, can you in your own mind, even though Michael was causing a lot of problems for you, do you understand that you were not allowed to go to that house that day?
No, that was the first time I ever went there. Like, how would I not
Do
be
you
allowed
know
to?
that now?
Now I do, but like
Okay.
then I just went there
So-
to find out where he lived. Like
Okay,
where the man lived. That he took my
so
daughter.
you never knew that he lived there before?
No, I didn't even care. Like,
Uh-huh.
I
But if
care
it's
where the
all
man
about
lived. I
Emma,
didn't care anything
If
about
it's
him.
all about, if it's all about Emma and you're trying to help out Emma, you knew that Emma was there, correct?
Yes, and I just wanted to know where he lived. Like,
Okay.
simply, like, how hard is that to figure out? Like, I just wanted to know where my daughter was.
Right?
Like, and then I took a picture. Like, it wasn't secret. I didn't
Do
like.
you remember? They charged you with trespassing because you were asked to leave the property and you didn't?
Well, that was after the fact.
Okay, but do you get that's why you're pleading guilty today?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Your
Let's
Honor.
talk about the incident with Michael that goes back to July, like some of the contacts that you've had with him. When did you guys get divorced?
Like
About 20 to 25 years ago, Your Honor.
25 years ago, like when Emma was a baby.
She was 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah, right. Or
Okay.
that's our surgery.
To the charge of stalking, which the way they read that, Ms. Muir, is repeated or continuing harassment.
No.
Okay, but you have to make the decision of how you're going to plead to this, Ms. Muir.
Talked about that. And that's how we're pleading guilty.
Okay.
And
So
do
I'm
you-
asking you, Ms. Muir, with contacts that you've made over the years with Michael, and like I said, I get that you're both in a dysfunctional situation.
Well,
How
thank
do you
you.
want to plead to that stalking charge?
guilty to the charge based upon Judge Markowski's ruling in February. So guilty.
Guilty to the
She's
charge.
pleading guilty to that, Your Honor.
And do you understand, Ms. Muir, that you had a number of contacts with Michael that you were prohibited from having? When you look back on it, it probably didn't help you any, fair?
No.
And you said some things that were nasty and probably you shouldn't have said, fair?
Yes, yes, you know, yeah.
And while there have been times that you felt like he bugged you, true? This was times where you were bugging, this was times where you were bugging him, correct?
I want nothing to do with him.
Right, and I'm glad that you say that now. But this past summer, you made a number of contacts with him that weren't really that smart of you, true?
Sure.
And people can look at those contacts as being harassment, even though you weren't trying to be a huge problem. It's something that wasn't very smart of you to do, correct?
Correct.
She said correct, Your Honor.
Correct, yeah. It was like.
Okay, then I want to take you to just September, a month ago, a month and a half ago. When sometimes you get worked up and you say stuff that you probably shouldn't, you even said that in one of the notes that you probably shouldn't have said some of the things that you say. Do you remember as to the bond violation, I had asked you please don't have any contact at all with Michael. Do you remember being told that on this case?
Yeah,
And even after I told you that, you did send him some text, even including my name in it, saying, well, let's see what Judge Smolenski says, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't deny that you contacted Michael by text, correct?
yes,
Sent him messages. I don't know whether you said you're a big jerk or I think you're a total jerk, Michael.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
using those words. That's me making it up. But it was pretty much how you felt. True?
yes, he's a big jerk.
And a couple of times you would say, like, why don't you just be a human being? Do you remember ever saying stuff like that?
Yes.
Yes, I think he should be.
Well, do you really, I mean, do you really remember that, Ms. Muir?
Yes, and I feel like he's just like Trump.
Yeah. Well, you're allowed to have your opinion. I got no beef. And if Mr. Ferenzo was here right now, I'd be telling him he's got problems too, because he does. But the two of you together is like a recipe for disaster. In one of your text messages to him, you alluded to the fact that Judge Smolenski is going to have to decide some stuff about what you say. Do you remember any of that? A little bit or not at all?
Go ahead and answer.
Yes.
I'm just asking
Right
if you
here.
remember.
Yes,
So sometimes, Ms. Muir, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, and you know you struggle from mental health issues. I've said before, we all do probably.
yes, we all do struggle for mental, we all should be seeing a counselor, and I am. And it's, yeah,
You're
And
doing
I
good.
just don't want you to have any connection with Michael.
I don't want any connection with him.
Right. But it was only September 4, which is a month and a half ago, that you did have contact with him. So you're telling me that now, but then you don't always do what I ask you to do. And I'm not perfect. I'm not the best one. I'm just trying to keep peace. The person I feel the most for is Emma.
Yes, me too. Like that's
To have
why-
two parents like she has,
like I've always been her parent. Like,
extremely
he-
difficult.
he's never even been involved in her care like before
Uh-huh.
this.
Yep. But because you're having so many difficulties keeping yourself on track, that affects Emma.
Yeah.
And that's hard, because Emma doesn't deserve that. I'll ask you, Mr. Murphy, whether you believe the court has complied with the court rule on the trespass, the stalking, and the bond violation.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe you have.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a feel for whether you want to go forward with sentencing right now on everything.
I think I would, Your
And
Honor. I did send
And
you
if
that.
there's anything else you want to say.
Yes, I would rely on a letter that we'd sent the court about some of the treatment background. My client made a very careful point of seeing her counselor today, Brendan Kelly. She's been diligent in helping that. She has another daughter that is almost like a saint. Her daughter Hannah has been really been helping her mom and managing things and staying in touch with Emma. And my client, I would ask that the court just be aware of my client's physical health now. She still is suffering from a head injury due to a fall on September 16. So despite those challenges, she understands she made a very significant mistake. She will not do it again. She wants to reiterate that to the court, and I know she feels very strong remorse. There is an overwhelming drive to get back together with Emma. We're looking at that through Judge Markowski, but that is another matter, Your Honor. So we would ask if the court would respectfully consider something like a 14-day suspended sentence, and she will refrain from any other text messages that was on a single date, but she should not have done it.
Okay. Can you think of anything else that you want to say, Ms. Muir?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm just like sorry. Like I'm just sorry for all the things that I did. Just sorry.
Who lives with the other daughter?
Hannah?
Yeah,
Who lives with Hannah? Does Hannah live by herself?
Yeah, she just bought a house. Like
Okay.
she lived with me through U of M. She graduated from U of M and she lived with me till she bought a house and she's now a homeowner.
This couple did raise 5 children, Your Honor, and Emma is special needs, but they've done a
She's
very
my,
nice job with the rest of the family.
she's my youngest. All my other children are, you know, homeowners,
Successful.
employed, successful. Like never had any problem. Like
Ms. Meir, I've said already, I'm not a
raised
doctor.
5 kids on my
Okay.
own.
Yeah,
Your
I've
Honor,
said before, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. And there's no question that you have some intense mental health issues that you got to deal with. And I'm glad that you're seeing Mr. Kelly. Continue that counseling. Some of your mental health issues may be hereditary and your kids can get them. I don't know. But you ought to be working as hard as you can to get your own mental health in a good place.
Like I am. I don't think I have severe mental health issues. I just like it's just
Well, the way these cases are coming up, I'll just tell you, I don't usually get 4 cases on one person. And you're going to have to really, really buckle down. You let Mr. Forenzo irritate you. And if you go back and look at some of those text messages, that's a mentally ill person. And I'm not saying that he's not. His own mental health issues. And Judge Murkowski is trying to protect Emma. But you're going to have to show that you are healthy in mind, body, and spirit before you're ever going to be able to be involved in her life. Mr. Tarango, did you want to say something?
I did, and my apologies, Your Honor, because I got into the Zoom meeting late.
No, that's fine.
Mr. Meir worked out an agreement with our intern, Ms. Stone, and I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page because I've got lots of offer sheets here, and I want to make sure that it's all done properly. In D 200-1568, Ms. Meir is pleading, I'm sorry, Mr. Miles, Ms. Meir is pleading guilty to the trespass. In D 200-1563, we're dismissing the larceny with a plea in the trespass case. We're also dismissing a bond violation. And in D 200-1763, she's pleading guilty to the stalking and a bond violation. We're okay with the 14-day suspended sentence on the bond violation and dismiss a telecommunication charge. Am I right in that agreement, Mr. Miles?
Yes, Your Honor, and yes, Mr. Tarango, and Ms. Stone did confirm that in an email.
Okay.
And that's what we just did on the plea to everything. So we followed that agreement exact.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'll just write it up.
Now
Just-
we're moving forward with sentencing and wondered if there's anything else that you can think of that
I
you
think-
wanted to say at all, Mr. Tarango?
I think the court has been covering it extremely well, Your Honor. I have nothing further to add.
Okay. So when I talk about the mental health issues, I keep always saying I'm not a doctor because I'm not, but there are some issues that have to be addressed. And you got to take it as extremely seriously as you can, Ms. Meir. On the stalking case, I can't be any more clear than to say do not have any contact directly or indirectly with Mr. Fiorenzo. No contact directly or indirectly. Your penalty on the stalking is a 1-year suspended jail sentence where 11 months are suspended. 30 days is going to be on a GPS tether. I was going to give you a jail sentence, and I've made the decision to change that. But if you mess up or have any violations, it would be jail. So basically, 30 days are going to be on a GPS tether, 11 months are suspended. You'll be on probation for 1 year, starting now, to make sure you're following all the rules exactly. Going to counseling, everything that the probation asked you to do, continuing with Mr. Kelly, the therapist. And also, it's a $500 fine, $360 oversight fee for probation of 1 year at $30 a month times 12, $75 crime victims' right fee for a total of $935. That is on the stalking charge. The bond violation is a 14 days suspended Credit for time served, no further jail time on the bond violation, $200 fine. On the trespass case, it's a $300 fine, 90-day suspended jail sentence. You do not do jail. 6-month non-reporting probation, although you will be on probation on the other case. $75 crime victims' right fee. $180 is the fee for probation at $555. If we add those cases up that I've just talked about today, stalking is $935, the trespass is $555, and the bond violation is $200. Separate from those, and I'll give you a total on that, separate from those, if you remember, we have a driving suspended ticket that you got. And the driving suspended ticket you got, Ms. Meir, was in a 2006 Chevy, October of the year 2019, 1 year ago, almost right now, East Grand Rapids, over by Gaslight Village area, Croswell and Wealthy. There's $175 that's still owed on that case. With the 3 cases from today, it's $1,690, and adding the $175 total, it's $1,865, as in $1,865 on everything. Now, Ms. Meir, I want you to do well. I want you to progress in a way that you can have a positive relationship with your other kids, potentially with Emma if the court allows. But if you run yourself into a predicament with this Mr. Fiorenzo or anybody else where you violate your probation, mark my words on this, and Mr. Murphy will tell you it's accurate. You will go to jail if you violate this probation. So be as aware as you can be that you have to follow the rules and be law abiding. If you have any problems, you should call Mr. Murphy. You can call and talk to your probation officer. They'll contact you. Can you give me the last known address on that right now, Amanda? Ms. Meir, the address that you get your mail at right now, what's the name of the street?
2280 Academy Drive, Northeast.
Yep. So it's the Academy address we'll be sending your mail to?
Yeah.
Respond to that.
Your Honor, could I be copied off on that also?
Yes?
Thank you.
All right, that's it. We're adjourned. Good luck to you, Ms. Meir. I'm really hoping that you can pull this off and do well.
Thanks for your time, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for waiting.
Very good.
Amanda, on the Rosario matter, does it have to be a courtroom? Oh, jeez. Okay, Mr. Moore, Judge Smolenski here. Jeremiah?
Yes.
You've probably been waiting a while. We're running a little bit behind, so I appreciate you being courteous. This is the case where they're talking about Lake Bella Vista, where you as the parent, tell me if I have this right, you as the parent get the ticket because you had somebody under 16 using a water motorcraft without the parent with them?
Correct. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, correct.
So what they did was they took the criminal charge and they said if you pled to a civil infraction, that they'd go that route and dismiss the criminal case. So the civil infraction is operation of a vessel on the water that's in violation. They're really talking about you letting one of your kids use, what is it, a ski-doo or something?
Yes,
Or a
it is
boat?
a ski-doo. Yes, a jet
Ski-doo?
ski.
Okay. How old was your child?
12.
12? Is
Yes.
that 6th grade?
That is 7th grade.
Is that a boy or a girl?
It was a girl.
Your daughter, has she ever taken one of those water safety classes?
She did it this summer, yes.
And the ticket was issued August 8.
Correct.
Fair enough?
Yes.
What is that in time relation to when she took that class?
I believe she took the class in July.
Uh-huh. And when they take the class, do they learn how old they have to be to drive the Ski-Doo by themselves?
Yes, it was a little bit, we just got the Ski-Doo that weekend.
So
and
you're caught up in the excitement of it and you know that it's not allowed, but you let her take it?
We misunderstood the rules because at a certain age, you are allowed to drive it within 100 feet or 100 yards of an adult.
Uh-huh. So
Um,
what do you think the rule is now? Are you familiar with what it is, Mr. Moore?
I am now, yes.
So what is it according to you?
A parent has to be on the vehicle itself.
Yeah, they call it a vessel.
Yes.
So you have to have an adult, doesn't have to just be a parent, but it has to be an adult
Yes,
on the vessel if the 12-year-old is driving it.
correct.
Okay, so as a civil infraction, it can be a fine up to $500. You can admit it or you can deny it. But the technical aspect of this ticket is that you are being ticketed for allowing your 12-year-old daughter to take the Ski-Doo, even if you were mixed up what the rule was, and drive it without an adult with her. That's the ticket. Are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Any questions for me?
No, I do not.
On a civil infraction, if you denied it, you'd have a right to have a hearing. You could have testimony. It's not exactly like a trial. We call it a hearing. We could have I don't know if it's the sheriff representative that was on Lake Bella Vista come in, say what he did. He's driving around. He's probably on a Sea-Doo himself or a Ski-Doo and sees different people on the lake, whether they have life jackets with them. You know the drill. How long have you lived on Bella Vista?
All my life.
Are you still in the house that you were as a kid?
No, that's my parents' house. My parents are still there. I've moved here 3 years ago.
So is Buena Vista on Bella Vista now?
It is, yes.
But it's not the house you grew up in.
No, it is not.
Okay. So as to the ticket of letting your daughter use the Sea-Doo against the rules, I'll just say it that way, how do you want to handle the ticket? Admit it or deny it?
I'll admit it, yes.
Did you talk to your wife a fair amount about this? Are you guys married?
We are, yes.
And do you have other kids?
I have 2 other kids, yes.
Older or younger?
I have a 15-year-old and I have a 10-year-old.
So both, older and younger than this, you have 3 altogether.
Yes.
Well, you had to live through this summer when that teenager drowned on Lake Bella Vista. Do you remember
Yes,
it?
yes, I was there, yes. Yes.
Did you talk to your family? Did you talk to your kids about it?
Yes, we did.
I mean, it's pretty traumatic to have a drowning in a lake like Bella Vista or any of our lakes around. And while they talk about that might be a medical situation, we've had accidents on the lakes at Bella Vista, at Silver Lake, where people are hit with the motorboat or somebody. We had one a couple summers ago where a young woman nearly lost part of her foot. Her foot was partly amputated by being hit by the propeller. All I'm saying is, well, I'm hoping you've never lost a child. You've never lost a child, have you?
No, I have not.
Well, if you did, you'd know what I'm talking about, because the reality of this is that I'm not trying to make this into like you're a bad dad. And I don't know how much your wife had to do with allowing the daughter to take the Sea-Doo. And I can just picture the daughter begging you to go out because it's brand new. But that's why you're called the parent. That's why you're the responsible person. That's why you're the adult role model. And in all due respect, while I can understand that you might have been confused, she went through that class. I think she would have been clear as a 7th grader who's smart enough to understand, and you can talk to her about it, what exactly the rules were. Because I think sometimes people just think, well, it's no big deal. It's a sunny, beautiful day. Just go ahead. And I don't know if there was that much put into even the thought of her taking it by herself. But if something happened where she wasn't quick enough to respond and she was hurt or hurt someone else, you'd about never forgive yourself. So I'm not making this into a fatal. And I know I'm talking pretty serious, and after all, it's a ticket. But talk to those families that are involved in them, because we see them all the time. And they damn well wish they had a do-over. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm sure you're a wonderful dad. I'm sure she's a great kid, and she's lucky to have you. But this doesn't take rocket science. And it's not just your daughter on the lake that we're worried about. It's everybody else that's out there too. It's a $250 fine. If you can pay it within a month, we'd appreciate you doing that, Mr. Moore. Can you handle it?
Yes, I can.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I do not.
I hope you take my comments in the tone that they're meant. I'm not trying to drill you. I'll just quit talking. You know
I
what I'm
understand.
saying.
I understand.
Okay, all right, that's it. That's
Thank
it then.
you.
Thanks a lot. You can disconnect. Just mail it in. Okay. Is Kai Lang available? Did you see anybody for the last name of Lang? Okay. Is it Kai Lang?
Yes. this
Mr.
is
Lang?
Mhm.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
I'm Judge Sara Smolenski. And this is the case where you were charged at that Amazon distribution center with an embezzlement originally. The charge was a misdemeanor, embezzlement, over 200, under 1,000, 1 year in jail possible, up to $2,000 fine, or 3 times the amount embezzled, whichever is greater. Mr. Lang, you're on your own, and the prosecutor talked to you about if you decided to plead. They wanted to offer that first-time offender program. They call it the Holmes Youthful Training Status, where you're placed on probation. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay. That Holmes Youthful Training Status is a first-time offender program where you're put on probation for a period of time. You got to stay totally squeaky clean, and it's not on your record permanently. Do you get that? Yes? We're not hearing you now. Yeah, now we can. Now we can. Now I can hear you, but a minute ago it was muted. For some reason, your connection is like in, out, in, out, in, out. So just try to stay calm. The way you are right now, I can hear you and see you. If you go forward, there's no trial. You don't bring any witnesses in. You don't take any testimony. You give up your right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If you go forward today, the decision has to be yours, Mr. Lang. No one else's. So far, do you understand?
Could you please go through earlier?
Okay, because you weren't
It's
hearing
cutting
me?
in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. Why
I just wanna
is
make
that?
sure. I was connecting to so I could hear you better.
Uh-huh. So the charge is called embezzlement, over 200, under 1,000. It's up to 1 year in jail. It's up to $2,000 fine, or 3 times the value of the property stolen. If you go forward, there's no trial. You give up your right to have a trial, like bring in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself. Be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But if you plead guilty, you give up those rights. There's no trial at all. And you don't have a lawyer. It's just you and me talking to each other. So you give up your right to have an attorney. And the first-time offender program they talked about is the Holmes Youthful Training Status, where if you stay squeaky clean and have no violations, this is not on your record permanently. Any questions so far? Mr. Lang? Speak out loud. Now you're muted.
going on?
Now you can speak. You understand
No,
what I've
ma'am.
talked about? Okay. And you understand everything I've
Yes,
gone
yes, I do.
over? All right. Then I'm going to go
Yes.
back in time to that Amazon distribution center on 68th Street, May 9, 5 months ago plus. How do you want to plead to the misdemeanor embezzlement over 200, under 1,000? Mr. Lang? How do you want to plead?
Plead guilty.
And are you pleading guilty by your own decision?
Yes.
Has anyone forced or threatened you in any way to plead guilty?
No.
Were you working for Amazon Distribution Center May 9?
Yes.
Did you take something that was not yours that was owned by Amazon?
Yes.
Were they the Apple AirPods similar to what you have now?
Yes.
Is that the same pair?
No.
The Apple AirPods sell for what? About $240 a pair?
Yes. I believe so.
And what would be your reason, Mr. Lang, to take those and put them in your own property the way you did that day?
There was not much reason to. I was just not acting smart.
Well, we've all not acted smart before, but I don't think it means we steal. Do you think of yourself
Well,
as a
was-
thief? If you thought of yourself, do you think of yourself as a thief?
No.
No. And your mom and dad, they never taught you, go ahead and steal if you want something. No.
No.
You got to speak out loud because we're recording this.
Okay.
So nobody's taught you to be a thief, correct?
No.
I think at one point you said the temptation was too great. Do you remember ever talking to the
more
people
Impulse.
at Impulse?
Mm-hmm.
Did you lose your job?
Yes.
Was it worth it?
No.
How old are you?
Just turned 20.
Well, that's an adult. 20 is an adult in pretty much everybody's book. Even though we might think of you as a kid, you're so much smarter than this. Do you have other cases?
No.
Have you been arrested before?
No.
You don't want to repeat this.
No.
You don't want to have to go through this again.
I completely understand.
All right, I'll accept your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily, Mr. Lang. Can you think of anything you want to say
Other than
before I tell you the penalty?
Wait, excuse me, can you repeat that last part, please?
I just wondered if there's anything you can think of that you want to say, before I tell you the penalty.
I made a very, all I can say is I made a very impulsive and stupid decision, and I'm gonna learn for it and pay the price, and I guess that's
All
kind
right.
of it.
Is the Heartland Boulevard in Ionia where you live with your folks?
Yes.
Did you tell them about it?
Yes.
They know that you got charged and lost your job?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you go to jail?
Yes.
Had you ever been to jail before?
No.
Well, you don't want to be back. Take it from me, don't go back. Do whatever you can to be smarter about your decisions, because quite frankly, it's tough for your mom and dad when they see you make a poor decision like this, because they know that you're smarter than how you acted. And really, you know you're smarter than that. But you're the only one that can be in control of you. I give you a 1-year suspended jail sentence where you get 1 day credit for jail time, 11 months, 29 days suspended, 6 months of probation, 10 days of community service. It's a $500 fine. $180 is the fee for probation at 6 months. $75 crime victims' right fee, And Amazon gets the restitution of $250 back for the cost of the pods. The total on everything is $1,005. $1,005. You had a bond down of $100 that gets applied. Then they'll set up a payment plan. And they'll talk to you about setting this up to pay so much each month. Any questions that you can think of that you have for me?
No, I do not, but I'm still kind of trying to understand this. So do I have any, I don't have any jail time, right?
No, you do not have any jail time to do. It's what we call a suspended jail sentence. It's
Okay.
held over your head, and while you're on probation for this 6-month period, you got to stay squeaky clean. If you mess up,
understand.
then you could get jail.
Okay. Understood.
Okay. The probation department will be in contact with you in Ionia
Okay.
by mail. Don't miss it, okay?
Well, no.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
can disconnect.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
You have a great.
Thank you. You know, on that Stone case, can you just reschedule it, the Stone one? Mr. Zevelking?
Hello, Your Honor.
Hi, how you doing?
Well, Your Honor, how are you?
Good, thanks. Let me just talk about your file with Jose Cortez, C092263FY. He's in Texas. He's in prison in Texas. And I appointed you to represent him so that we could have this motion to quash the warrant, set up a new date for his appearance at some point. We were hoping we could do Zoom with the prison in Texas, but for some reason they weren't able to do that. But he's been writing me, and his family's been writing me. This is a 2009 felony case
Right.
for B&E of a building with a SUP 4.
Yes.
And he's never dealt with it. Now, I'm not positive how long he's been in Texas, but I'm thinking it's been years. And he's been in prison for a while in Texas, but he's due to get out. They won't let him out of Texas prison with our warrant still open. So he's made, in my opinion, a lot of efforts writing to us. And I don't know if you've seen all those letters, and I want to say his wife or his mother, some other family member wrote too.
I have not seen the letters, Your Honor. I just have the police report and then the notice for today, but I have talked with Ms. Lopez, who is Mr. Cortez's wife. And
Okay, so she's the wife?
Yep, yep. And I've also had a chance to talk with Mr. Tarango a bit to get up to speed a little bit on where we are.
Okay, So I'm not really objecting to quashing the warrant. I'm not quite sure what's the best protocol because
Right.
there is an arrest warrant. It's not a bench warrant. It's an actual arrest warrant. But I think we'd need to give him a date. You know, even if he's out of prison and down in Texas living with his wife, they could Zoom in or they could call in and we could still deal with it.
Right. Yes.
But I'd want to reserve the right to resurrect the warrant if he fails to appear or contact you or contact us.
That makes sense.
But you know, the minute he's out of prison,
Yes.
we kind of lose track of where he is or what's going on.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Tarango?
Your Honor, I'm with Mr. Zevelkin. I didn't know that he was writing to the court, but him and his wife, Ms. Lopez, have been writing to our office at least. My understanding is that he's currently in a halfway house and he's trying to be released from the halfway house, but they won't shorten up that sentence until he deals with a Michigan case. My understanding, and I relayed this to defense counsel, was I thought he was trying to write the court to wanting us to extradite him up here so that he could deal with the B&E charge.
Right?
Again, that's a thought. I'm not sure if that's actually the case. And if that is what he's trying to do, I've spoken to Chris Becker from our office, who is not inclined to extradite him from Texas.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. It's just too costly.
Right, exactly. So then my other thought and discussion with Mr. Zubelking was, is he expecting that if we're not going to extradite him, is he thinking that we're just going to dismiss the case? Because in one of the letters, he talks about he's a truck driver, he goes nationwide, and he doesn't want to be driving in Michigan and then get stopped over in a truck and then be arrested for an outstanding warrant. So
here's what I think should happen. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure he's ever been arraigned on the case.
Me either. It doesn't look like.
Because we've never talked to him. But what I'm suggesting, Mr. Zebelkink and Mr. Tarango, is with a 2009 B&E at some kind of truck parts place on Division, if it could be reduced to a misdemeanor of some sort, a B&E that might be a misdemeanor, illegal entry or something like that, if the facts support it, I'm saying, see if we can set up a telephone or a Zoom plea and be done with the case on a misdemeanor, if he'd do it. Felony gets dismissed if he's the one. What I cannot tell him is that we would completely dismiss the case without further action on it.
Right.
But the further action might be continued discussions between you and the prosecutor to have a misdemeanor plea resolve it. I've not gone back to look at any issues regarding restitution, which would be pretty much the only thing I'd be concerned about.
Right.
Because realistically, I'm not even looking at giving him time if he pled on this, when he's already done time on other stuff over the last, I don't know how long he's been in, but the case is 11 years old.
Right.
So before I actually technically quash the warrant, why don't you, Mr. Zebelking, get back to the wife, if that's your main contact person?
Okay.
Because I would be willing to quash it for him. If he's in a halfway house, I'm betting he has contact with a phone.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
And I can pick it up right now and call him. We could talk to him on the phone.
Right.
If we knew how to get a hold of him.
Right. Okay.
See if you can do that in the next week or so.
I will.
And in the meanwhile, Mr. Tarango, maybe you could look into whether a misdemeanor plea would be advisable from your perspective. To give Mr. Zebelking something to talk to him about, I would do fines and court costs and finalize the case. Okay?
Sounds like.
Mr. Zebelking, is your most contact with him through the wife by phone or by mail?
It's been by email so far.
Oh, well, that's easy and quick.
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah, see if we can get a phone number for him, or if she has any visitation time with him. I don't know how they do it at the halfway house, but those people at the halfway house have a chance to talk to family.
Right. That's what I thought too. So
I would assume they'd let him talk to you as the attorney. We can do a three-way call and get this done.
Okay. Yes.
Have you ever been able to read the police report on the case?
I have. Yes.
So that I've never read it. I don't know anything about it. But if he was there and he's implicated, I'm just saying, Mr. Tarango, if you're willing to do a misdemeanor, that's probably the best way to go. We don't have to do a PC. We don't have to do a prelim. And really, the only thing I'd really be concerned about is just say, and I don't know, Mr. Zebelking, if the victim was out some money that never got dealt with, I'd want to try to make that whole.
And it looks like that is the case, Your Honor.
Okay.
He broke into like a, I'm gonna call it like a truck repair place and stole some tools. So there would be the cost of replacement,
So
but
if we could get an amount of what the tools were from 11 years ago, I'd be willing to waive the fines and court costs and just make them pay for the tools if he pled to a misdemeanor.
Okay. Yeah, it looks pretty substantial, over $1,000 it looks like, certainly.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're tools, they're expensive, and he took them, so that would be.
He wants to get his record clean now that he's
Right.
done his time and he's in the halfway house.
Right.
So he's probably in the best position ever to want to make all this right.
Yes.
Which is why they started writing to us in the beginning. We wouldn't even be talking if he didn't send letters. I probably got 4 letters.
Okay,
So let's just look into it and get back to us, Mr. Zevelking. In
I
the
will.
next week or so, we can set something up. Try to get a phone number.
I will.
Are you good with that, Mr. Tarango?
I am, Your Honor.
All set then. Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks
Your
for
Honor.
waiting. I hope I didn't delay you.
Nothing at all, Your Honor. Thank you. And
All
thank
right, I'll